Let's dive deep into all of the features in Far Cry 6. Is a new version of the Switch going to be announced this week? And I break down the 10 best games released in 2021 so far. All that and the latest and everything cool today in the Rundown. Hey, welcome to the Rundown, everybody. My name is Victor Lucas, and we have got an awesome show for you today, which is dedicated to our buddy Lee Bonar, who had a great thing to say, actually. He said, finished Biomutant today. Honestly, I loved it. Running around an open world with a radiated machine gun and an ice club was so much fun. So this is that ongoing conversation about Biomutant. Lots of people, they have different opinions on the game. I've seen a lot of comments talking about how much fun people have been having with it, which is great. It fills me with joy. I'm still playing it. I'm going to have some follow-up thoughts on Biomutant and also Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World, I think on tomorrow's Rundown, so please come back for that. First of all, though, I've got to thank our sponsor for today's Rundown, which is the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments happening every weekend, and you don't want to miss out on the action. You can join up with them at tgs.gg. All right, we've got a great rundown to get to. It's dedicated to Lee. Let's get going. First up, we know that the Super Switch or the Switch Pro is all over the internet right now, but the plot thickens. A lot more interesting details are starting to filter out there. Bloomberg has been hot on the trail of this device for a long time. They've been doing some really good reporting, really trying to get a sense of exactly when this is going to come out. They have come out and said that it's going to be available as soon as September of this year, which brings up a lot of questions about whether Nintendo is going to be revealing it, as part of the lead up to this new E3 and the Summer Games Fest. Well, yesterday or a couple of days ago, Amazon Mexico actually had a listing for the new Nintendo Switch Pro, which doesn't sound like a great name. I really hope that isn't the real name for this thing. But it was, shared on Twitter, and people were talking about it. Wario64, which does a great job at tracking all of the sales and announcements out there. But of course, the world is blowing up for some kind of an announcement out there. Now, it was a big holiday in Japan. It's also Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to everybody as I'm recording this. So we don't have anything to report definitively today, but it does feel like a lot of people's eyes, like Forbes had an article, every website, every media outlet, including the Electric Playground that covers this stuff, is speculating that an announcement is going to come soon. And the reason why it would come soon is because Nintendo would like to offer the opportunity to its developers to show off the games that they're working on for whatever new enhanced, expanded Switch hardware that they might be working on. I, for one, really want a new version of the Switch. It's going to be priced around $400, and I think the thing that is a little bit interesting to kind of go down the conjecture wheel on is if it's got a new enhanced NVIDIA chip in it that is going to allow for DLSS technology to upconvert and project up to 4K on a television screen. And we know that the Steam Pal, or we think that the Steam Pal is going to be coming from Valve. Is it going to have similar kinds of specs? And is Valve working with NVIDIA to craft some kind of PC alternative that will project up to 4K through DLSS through the games that it's going to run? But things are getting incredibly interesting, especially if you're into this idea of hybrid handheld, able to play it on the television kind of devices that are out there right now. Nintendo really came in and got us thinking, completely differently about how we engage with our software. And that's why the Switch has been so damn successful. It's an amazing platform. And I still think that there's going to be tons of room for the Switch Lite, even if there is a new Super Switch out there, because people are going to want to protect that new Super Switch, especially when it launches at a $400 premium price. But it's incredibly exciting. It always is when any of the big three are working on new console hardware out there. But what do you guys think? Do you want this thing? Are they going to announce it this week? Let me know in the comments below. And let's move on and talk about Ubisoft's big announcement from last week. We got to look at Far Cry 6 in a couple of video reveals that went up. We got a chance to check out the new character that we're going to play, male or female version of Dani Rojas, and she is going up against the Castillo family, led by Anton Castillo, who is played by Giancarlo Esposito. Giancarlo Esposito was the first thing that UB kind of came out with about this game. It all takes place on an island country called Yara, which is very analogous to what we know of Cuba. There's a lot of classic-looking vehicles that have been retrofitted and set up with all kinds of, armament and armor plating and things like that. You're also kind of going through the land and through the towns and the villages that you're going to deal with and the enemy installations, and you're obviously collecting all kinds of loot and all kinds of materials that then you can refashion and recraft into a bunch of different ways. And you're going to get caught up in the intrigue of working with these guerrilla warriors to kind of take back the country from this oppressive force. And what's interesting about Yara is that it's kind of existed in much the same way that Cuba has, kind of in solitude, isolated from everybody else out there, with a authoritarian regime that plays hard with the rules and isn't afraid to kind of punish the people out there. So there is this latent revolution that you become a part of, which is pretty damn cool. Visually, it looks pretty impressive. This is going to be a cross-generational game. I think this is probably the last Far Cry game that you'll be able to get for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Maybe it's coming to the Super Switch. Who knows? But what we've seen so far, obviously, looks really nice. It's probably running off PC hardware, or it's upconverted sort of targets that they're looking for the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. There's going to be some pretty interesting new elements in here as well, like the alliances that you're going to be able to make. You also can connect with lots of animal friends, which are called amigos in the game. And I think everybody has seen that cute little chorizo dog that's got wheels for back legs, which I think is pretty damn impressive. And what's interesting about this game is that there's obviously a lot of speculation about how it kind of might tie into previous iterations of Far Cry. There is a big rumor out there that the kid that we have seen, mostly in the reveal trailers, his name is Diego Castillo. He is Anton Castillo's son. Maybe, and I hope I'm not spoiling something, but he may actually be Voss from Far Cry 3, which is probably the most famous of all the villains in the Far Cry lore, played by Michael Mando. An incredible performance, an incredible character. And we don't quite know what's going to happen with that. This is all total speculation at this point. Nobody would want that spoiled or anything, but that is an interesting rumor nonetheless. I dug the way that Ubisoft kind of set all of this up. They had their narrative director, Navid Havari, come out and kind of take us through the location of Yara and some of the settings and some of the different kinds of challenges that we're going to face as we go across this gorgeous landscape. I mean, it looks like a next generation implementation of what the original Far Cry game kind of represented for me. And that was a mind-blowing experience. I can still remember reviewing the first Far Cry and just being absolutely gobsmacked by how beautiful it was. And I think Far Cry 3 also hit that as well. Even if Far Cry 2 was, perhaps maybe even overly ambitious with some of the systems and things that they had in there. I'm looking forward to this game. I talked a little bit about on the Vic's Basement podcast that I just did with Jose Sanchez about the clapback that Ubisoft has had because they've been sort of hesitant to make any kind of political statement with their games, even though they are venturing deep into politically tinged territory. It's hard to kind of craft a game that is completely influenced by Cuba and not sort of veer into politics and the way of life that a lot of Cubans try to escape from, but it's definitely interesting background material for an exciting action adventure, which is what the Far Cry games are always all about. So looking forward to this one. It's going to come out this fall, and I expect that it's going to deliver a lot of explosions and a lot of smiles. All right, I know what you came here for today for this episode of the Rundown. I wanted to do something special to kind of wrap up May because we're about to enter into this very busy June where all kinds of stuff is going to start to get revealed, and we're going to have a really good kind of look ahead at the rest of 2021. I thought, let's take a look at the 10 best games, in my humble opinion, from 2021 so far, starting with number 10. This is a little bit of a cheat because obviously Scott Pilgrim vs. the World has already been released before, but it came back and it was a digital-only release when it was first unveiled, which I still have on my PlayStation 3. And if you didn't download it back then, there's a pretty good chance that you wouldn't be able to play this thing. So it was a fantastic treat to see that Scott Pilgrim came back. It's an awesome brawler with beautiful pixel art, lots of great little details that are an homage to the film, but also all the comics and stuff. This is just a crazy, enjoyable, beautifully crafted experience to play. And, it also kind of speaks to the idea that these kinds of games are permanent. These simplistic scrolling brawler type experiences, especially when you play cooperatively, can be played forever and ever and ever. So that comes in at number 10. Now, at number 9, I've got a game called Demeo, which I just checked out on the Oculus Quest 2, and this is a very interesting game which completely shocked me when I tried on the headset. It's basically a tabletop role-playing experience, not unlike a little bit of Dungeons & Dragons, but there's a little bit more, I don't know, there's more peripherals in the game. It's a game within a game, basically. You're rolling die, and you're taking your miniatures and your cards, and you're making decisions on the beasts that you're going to battle against. It's set up to be a beautiful multiplayer experience where you can connect online and create a party and venture into these dungeons and do all of the chest looting that you want to do and beat up on all the monsters and the bosses that you're going to be dealing with. It's really effectively done. And yes, there's a lot of rendered CG elements in this trailer to kind of represent how it feels, but it really does feel like that. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's an incredible experience and one of the most exciting VR games that I've played in the last year, easily. And I'm very excited that it's out there because VR is an amazing platform, but it needs incredible software like that to kind of spread the word of mouth and get more people on board and playing great games. But Demeo rocks. That's why it is number 9. Now, number 8 is something that you guys could probably predict. Monster Hunter Rise came out earlier this year and completely knocked our socks off. It's a gorgeous game for the Nintendo Switch, one of the most beautiful games, one of the most detailed and robust experiences on the platform. You really do get a sense of scale and a great sense of reward from all of these adventures that you go on, all of these beasts that you have to either tame or take down, and also the new gameplay experiences like being able to ride with the wire bugs and do all of these vertical kind of combat attacks and maneuvers, especially in cooperative play. I mean, it's just loaded with so much beautiful content, when it was first released, but then this series is just so freaking huge that Capcom keeps adding new content. And last week I just talked about the version 3.0 update that they're up to now. So there's a bunch of new monsters and new, beautiful elements to continue to unlock. This is an incredible game. Honestly, one of the best of 2021, but also one of the best games that you can pick up for the Nintendo Switch, I would say. All right, number 7 on my list is also a Nintendo Switch game. This is Super Mario 3D World Plus, and that plus is important, Bowser's Fury. And I think what we kind of expected when this came out is that it was just going to be a bit of a throwaway type of experience, but really, Bowser's Fury is such a great escape. It's such a beautiful addition. Now, the core gameplay of Super Mario 3D World is really, really fun. It was a terrific Wii U game. And of course, Nintendo is being very shrewd with finding ways to bring back Wii U titles that may have been a little bit overlooked when they first released on the platform. This is incorporating a lot of the stuff that we saw in the 3DS franchise for Mario, but also things that we've seen in the 2D games and the 3D games. It's an interesting hybrid of all of that with some really tricky elements and mechanics and the beautiful little cat suit that you get. And what was cool about this game is that, of course, what they did is they took a lot of the work that went into the world building and the crafting all of the elements and all of these different disparate areas that you travel to from level to level to level, and they combined everything and brought it all together for Bowser's Fury. And I'm just going to zip ahead in the footage here a little bit to show it off. And so what they did with Bowser's Fury is they kind of connected all of these little different levels in 3D world, and it's one giant open map that you can travel to. You have some similar kinds of puzzles that you have to figure out from the 3D world game, but it's played from a completely different perspective with some new mechanics and some new systems, and of course all of the awesome costumes that you get with this franchise. It is a crazy amount of fun, and it's just it's so much fun to battle the giant Bowser. You have to battle this giant Bowser many times within the game, which is really cool. And I think what was also amazing about this game is it's not Bowser's Fury I'm talking about. Like, all of it is massive. I mean, it's completely loaded with value for anybody out there. But Bowser's Fury wasn't overwhelming. It was an attainable adventure. Like, you could complete it and you could get to the end and you could do all of the objectives, and it felt satisfying. It felt like they easily could have spun that out as a separate game for a smaller price. And maybe Nintendo's going to do that down the road. But it is an excellent game, and I wouldn't mind a full-fledged sequel to Bowser's Fury, as a standalone experience, maybe a larger one with more places that you can travel to. But it is a fantastic game, and that is why it is number 7 of my top 10 of 2021 so far. All right, now let's shift over and talk about number 6 on my list, and this one I just wrapped up not too long ago. It's Resident Evil Village. Capcom crafted another crazy, scary, emphasize crazy experience where you go to this kind of Transylvania-like town that's filled with werewolves and all kinds of creepy creatures that are out to kill you. And you, as Ethan Winters, have this unbelievable ability to fight through just awful terror and a lot of mutilation and a lot of, stabs. You get stabbed and sliced a hell of a lot in this game. But you persevere, man. You are one tough cookie as Ethan Winters. And so you're battling some giants, some, massive creatures, not just the giant vampire lady, but there's some giant werewolves and other assorted giant monsters. You go through a giant castle, which is, expertly crafted. The village itself is really an amazing, dystopia that you have to persevere through. And you just meet and encounter and deal with all of these insane characters that the Resident Evil team is just so talented at crafting for us. It is a very playable experience. It doesn't slap you down. It's not so hard that you get frustrated by it, but it's just really, really fun. It's really well tuned. And it maybe is a little less creepy than Resident Evil 7 was, emphatically scary than Resident Evil 7 was, but it's incredibly accessible and just so much fun to play. And so rewarding. I mean, there is a lot of content, a lot of puzzles to solve, a lot of bosses to contend with, and interesting fights and scenarios to get through, and an amazing merchant. I loved Resident Evil 7. I loved Resident Evil 8. That's why it is number 6 on my list. All right, we're getting down to the last 5 on my list, and what I wanted to do here is, these are obviously my choices, but I wanted to open the floor for you guys to kind of comment, let me know what I may have missed out on. I think that's the real value for something like this is people can watch the content, and then they can look down at all the comments, and they can see, what everybody's thinking, and point us in the direction of lots of other software out there. All right, let's move on to number 5 on my list. And this was an amazing side-scrolling action-adventure from Yacht Club Games. They were the publisher. Machine Head was the developer. Developed by one person. It's called Cyber Shadow. And it evokes a lot of Ninja Gaiden, lots of classic 2D scrolling adventure shinobi, lots of experiences that we've had on the Sega Genesis. I think mostly on the Genesis. This definitely has a big Sega kind of vibe to it, doesn't it? I mean, there are games like this on the Super Nintendo as well. It's got a Castlevania kind of aesthetic. You power up and level up, but it's just so tuned and so fun, and the music is so freaking fantastic. I absolutely loved playing Cyber Shadow. That's why it is number 5 on my list. All right, we are down to the final 4, and the fourth one I think is there's an emotional reason why I love It Takes Two, which is my fourth one. Obviously, there's an emotional, weighted story in the telling of this game. It's about a couple that are facing a divorce, and they've got a daughter that's dealing with, the ramifications of that. And she creates this magical reality where she infuses these two dolls with the personalities of her parents. And then through this adventure, they kind of have to learn to play and think and work together to solve all of the riddles and the puzzles and the challenges. And it's an incredibly tuned and eminently playable experience. It's very Nintendo-like, like every space you enter into the game, there are playable bits. You're constantly engaged with things that you can interact with and have some fun with, and the character development of all the the ancillary characters and the different creatures and things that you meet along the way are all of it is really wonderful. And I don't know if it would have registered as much as it does if the two leads, who have to voice a tremendous amount, they're bickering and they're going back and forth and they're encouraging each other, which mirrors a lot of the way that you play it with somebody else. But they're so freaking amazing. But the reason why I really loved this game is that I played it with my daughter, and it was just so much fun to depend on each other and to kind of rely on each other and each other's kind of abilities and puzzle solving skills to team up and figure it all out together, and the amount of times that we would get past something and then give each other a high five, it was just really, really good. It was really, really good. I had so much fun with It Takes Two. And, clearly this is a game that proves that cooperative games should be made. More cooperative adventures would be a very good thing. And honestly, games that give you a little bit of the choice, maybe there's some really intelligent AI pals that you can play platforming action adventure games with, which I know adds a tremendous amount of work on the developer's side. But then that ability to pass a controller to a friend and do all of these things together, incredible. What a fantastic game It Takes Two is. Okay, we're down to the last 3 in the top 10 for 2021, and I bet you can guess what they are. Number 3 for me is Hitman 3. How fitting is that? IO Interactive built us something incredibly special here, and what they also did is they reverse engineered a lot of the stuff that they implemented into Hitman 3 into their previous couple of Hitman games, and they have just been on a tear with this franchise. And it's been a bit of a reinvention, but also implementing a lot of the stuff that we have gotten to know about the Agent 47 mechanics. This is a game about experimentation. This is, a game about trying to kind of, puzzle solve the world and the different characters that you're going to interact with. And it's just so unabashedly gorgeous. It's just loaded with great details and beautiful lighting and interesting conversations with the different characters. It's true. I mean, it's a horrifying toy because your objective is to murder somebody, which is kind of freaky. But it is like a complete sandbox. You enter into these missions, and you've got a ton of different ways that you can complete everything. And it's satisfying every single time you do it, whether you do it by the skin of your teeth or you luck out or you're kind of clumsy, but it kind of works. It is incredibly gratifying, and it's just so polished and so tuned. I really had a tough time putting the controller down to come back and talk about this game with you guys. But I did, and I loved it, loved completing it. Now, I haven't been able to go back and play it again since I did complete it, and I really want to because, of course, there's all of the after-launch content that's there. There's the missions that you can create. There's the downloadable missions and timed missions that you can go on. An exceptional piece of software, and IO is so good, I can't wait to see what they do with James Bond. All right, speaking of developers from the region, the folks at I forgot the name of the developer. Oh, you guys can tell me in the chat. But Returnal is number 2 on my list, and I was absolutely blown away by this game. And it's all about the feel. The feel of Returnal is its greatest success. It's beautiful, and it's completely evocative of things that we've seen from Ridley Scott or Denis Villeneuve. But it's incredibly tactile. It's such a wonderful use of the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. It's very challenging for me. I know that some gamers out there are blasting through this and have figured out a lot of its secrets. I'm still playing it. But it's a game where you are trying to, get to the end with one life, and the expectation and the assumption is that you're going to die and you're going to rinse and repeat. It's a little bit like that Tom Cruise movie, and it's just wonderfully orchestrated. And it's Housemarque is the name of the developer. Thank you. I don't know, how they got ready to do this, because it's such a massive level up. It's not even it's an even bigger level up than the Guerrilla Games folks going from Killzone to Horizon Zero Dawn. It's so earth-shaking. Now, I say that, and at the core of this game are still a lot of the Housemarque arcadey, twitchy elements, that sensibility, that sort of drop another quarter in kind of replay hook that has been a part of all of their games is also a part of this. So it's a really interesting roguelike concept, because it ties in a lot of what arcade games used to do, right? You would die in an arcade game and you say, well, I think I can do better again, and I'll start over, I'll pop in another quarter, and we'll see how far I get this time. And so it feels like a 2021 arcade escape that goes on and on and on, with so much detail and so many cool hooks and surprises. And the boss fights are incredibly memorable and beautiful. This is a very, very special game, and I hope it's doing really well, and I hope that this is the beginning of some incredible things for Housemarque. And, it would be okay if this is a one-and-done kind of thing that they're developing, and then they work on something else that blows us away. But I also wouldn't mind, continuing with this as a brand, as a franchise, because it's so freaking good. Love Returnal. That's why it's number 2. All right. And finally, down to my number 1, and I think you guys can probably guess this one. It is Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I have had an incredible time. Mostly I've played Mass Effect 1. I streamed a little bit of Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, but it's been so freaking fantastic to get back into this world, into this universe, to recognize the artistry of BioWare, the ambition that this development team had to kind of craft something so inspiring and so, I always say massive when I talk about Mass Effect, but it really does feel larger than the confines of the screen. Even with the remaster, feels like we are, just sneaking in a perspective on a world that's alive beyond the edges of the screen. It's so fleshed out. The characters are interesting. The threads are constantly surprising. The encounters that you go on, they speak to literary moments. Like your mind just goes with the imagination of it all, and you think about how they've crafted the stories. You can't play this game without thinking, where's the show? Where's the movie? Where else are they going to go? Where are the sequels? You can't. That's the thing. And what's impressive about these, obviously artistically they did some incredible, brushstroke refreshments on all of these titles. But what's also impressive is that when you recognize that they built all of these experiences in one console generation, it is utterly mind-blowing And talk about value for the money, all the ways you can play through these games and then replay through these games and then share them with your friends and get together and talk about choices and where you ended up in your Mass Effect story. Amazing. What an incredible franchise and what an incredible job from BioWare. And I'm so happy that EA, pulled the trigger on that and let us all engage with Mass Effect Legendary Edition this year. Felt like we needed it. Now, I've seen some choices in there. I saw Wood brought up Disco Elysium, and I've only touched Disco Elysium, which came out on the PC, I think, last year. So I've played it a little bit on the PC. I haven't played it recently on any of the consoles, but I definitely did appreciate what I saw. But I didn't play it enough that I would say, okay, let's put it into the list right now. But you know what? Let me know. Like Vasqueezy says, Yakuza 7, I'm calling it. Let me know what you guys think. That Judgment game was pretty darn cool. I haven't played the Medium yet, but I've heard kind of mixed things about that game. All right, I do have a couple of runners up, and I thought it would be a little bit weird to put them in the top 10 because they just came out in 2020, and they got lots of attention for the craftsmanship of their titles in 2020. I'm talking about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, which hit the PlayStation 5, and it's coming to the Nintendo 64. I don't think it's been released yet for the Nintendo 64. I am very excited to see what it looks like on the N64, but I can tell you on the PlayStation 5, it is outrageous. It is so freaking good. And when I first put it in, I hadn't transferred over my save, and I was like, oh man, I feel like I just want to unlock it all again from scratch because it's so amazing, like it's just so unbelievably rewarding. All of the collectibles that you have to go and find, all of the objectives that you have to hit. It's just so much crazy fun. It's an incredible game. One of the best soundtracks ever produced for a video game in my estimation as well. And Activision also did good.
Shocking events that will change the course of your life!
That last part might have been a hair dramatic, but there's lots of awesome updates and additions coming to the Crash Bandicoot 4's About Time experience on PlayStation 5. Hey everyone, I'm Lou Studdard, creative producer at Toys for Bob. I'm here to give you the feature rundown on Crash Bandicoot 4 on PS5. That includes 4K at 60 frames per second, adaptive triggers, 3D audio, and more.
Let's make this fun.
Incredibly challenging.
Picking up where Crash Bandicoot Warp left off, in Crash Bandicoot 4's About Time, we find the evil masterminds Neocortex and Dr. Entropy escaping a once-thought inescapable interdimensional prison, leaving giant holes in the universe.
All right, so, fix the volume mix. Was there audio in the
Shocking events that will change the course of...
Do that again. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go back up here. Thank you for that. Crash trailer, thank you. I can't read while I'm talking and watching, so I read that, so I'll just do that again and I'll fix it later. Okay, ready? And finally, the last runner-up that I have is Crash Bandicoot 4. Toys for Bob did an amazing job with this game last year, and then it's been refreshed for the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch. Beautiful characters that you can play as, not only Crash, but lots of awesome challenge. In fact, this is maybe a little bit too challenging. This is going to get you close to punching your screen, this game, but I think that's pretty much par for the course with all the Crash games. You can play as Cortex and some of the other characters with different abilities, and there's all of these different ways that they mix and match the visuals for the gameplay as well. Incredibly ambitious and a great job, with the original release, but a great upconvert for PlayStation 5, but also did a really nice job for the Nintendo Switch as well. What a terrific game Crash 4 is. All right, you guys, that is it. That's my top 10 for 2021. Would love to hear what you guys have to say about the games that I didn't mention. What didn't I hit in my list? Let me know in the comments. Let me know, and I'll share that with people. I'll follow up on this video for sure. But it was fun to put that together. And you know what? Like, this year really is just getting started. I think 2021 so far has been a lot of releasing stuff that didn't quite fit into the 2020 calendar. And it's been a little bit safe, I think, in terms of releases, but I think developers really acclimated to working from home through the course of 2020. And we're about to be surprised by some pretty remarkable releases over the next few weeks, and it's going to be really fun to talk about them right here. Thank you so much for watching today, you guys. I'll be back tomorrow with a fresh episode for you. Thank you to all of our subscribers, and thank you to our EPN members. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, play forever.